In other words, we have them closed.
They track you down wherever you
Ready?
go.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment, Tuesday, November 10th, 2020 at 6 PM. Roll call, please.
Don Jacobson.
Linda Gettleman,
Josh Young.
Gary Harris. Robert Fear.
Brittany Kotner.
Maggie Wentler.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
No move.
Second.
First by Don, second by Gary. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next, to approve the meeting minutes for Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is an open forum. Is there anyone present that would like to speak towards anything not on the agenda this evening? Moving on to public hearings, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, first item is an ordinance amendment application 015-20 to adopt the Crow Wing County short-term rental ordinance. Owner applicant, City of Nisswa. Brittany.
This is one that we've kind of seen coming down the tracks for a while. This is to remove our limitations of 3 short-term rentals per parcel per year and opt into the Crow Wing County short-term rental licensing program.
Any additional information?
No, this would be the version that we spoke of last month, so nothing should change in that regard.
If you would like to make a public comment regarding this project, please step forward to the podium and state your name. Okay. Hearing none, I'll close public comments. And does the commissioner have any questions, comments?
Well, just to Brittany, if this passed, what's going to make a difference that people will notice from our ordinance to the counties? What's the major difference?
The big difference is right now with me being a one-person department and we operate on complaint base, it becomes very difficult to enforce the ordinance that we currently have. By handing this off to Crow Wing County, they have a whole department that will be focusing on the licensure, the enforcement, the limitations such as that. I'm hoping that by joining into this, we'll have more of a uniform process so that if you were in Pequot or Breezy or here, we're trying to create uniformity.
Our current ordinance limits the amount that it can be done. Under the Crow Wing ordinance, is there a limit also or not?
They don't limit based on the amount of rentals. They limit based on the amount of violations. So if there were complaints submitted that were found to be accurate, then they only have a certain amount before your license would be revoked. And I don't recall the exact number. I want to say it was 3, but I could be mistaken.
If they were to ever change their wording or their ordinance, I'm assuming that Nisswa would just adopt whatever changes that they made.
We actually won't have to adopt it by doing this route because we simply defer them to the Crow Wing County website. That's why I didn't want to simply copy and paste their ordinance because then it's one thing to monitor. And if we don't keep up on it, then we kind of opt out of their licensing program.
We won't have an ordinance at all.
Right, yeah.
So if someone calls the city of Nisswa, you immediately defer them to Crow Wing County? Give
Yep.
them the number, website, email, whatever?
Yep.
Got it.
Do you know who that is at Crow Wing County who's going to be doing that?
I'm not 100% sure. I assume Land Services, but I'm not sure right now.
Okay. Any additional comments, questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we recommend to the city council the change in ordinance 015-20 and adopt the Crow Wing County short-term lease rental ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Second item is an ordinance amendment application 018-20 to modify 4712 structure size requirements of the city code. Owner applicant, City of Nisswa. Brittany?
This has been brought about mostly by request of residents of the city as well as some councilmen and commission members due to the shouse trend that is entering, I'll say, the whole Brainerd Lakes area. I don't think that we are unique in this. However, it is the feedback I've received that we'd like to limit these at least to some degree. And so I have two different options in front of you. One is to allow equal parts of storage and living quarters. The other one is to allow 150% of the ground footprint living quarters to also be storage. So if you had a 1,000 square foot house with the 150% option, you'd be allowed 1,500 square feet of garage area. And both of them are based off of the ground footprint, not no stories added.
and so we're to make recommendation on one or the other, 150 or 100?
Yeah, the last time we spoke, we didn't have a clear path, so I thought I'd present both.
Do we have anybody in the audience that would make a public comment towards proposed ordinance amendment? Please come to the podium and state your name.
Alan Jenkins, I reside at 23530 Smiley Road. I'm building a home over on Nashway. I'm rather sure I know what brought about part of what this discussion is here tonight. And I want to say one thing, and I'll be a little blunt. There was a vacant lot that Mr. Jacobson, you could have purchased along with your next door neighbor, split it, made a real good asset to both of you. Yes, it's a big building. I can maybe understand why you don't like it, but it was viable to be built. To limit us, I've just put a few things together. I don't know of any of you gentlemen, but some of you have a personal agenda, I believe. One here doesn't like certain colors. Another gentleman mentioned that 400 square feet should be adequate for a garage. Have any of you owned your own business, operated your own business? Have you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you like all the regulations that are slapped down on you? I'm an electrical contractor. I've dealt with the National Electric Code for over 40 years. Most of it's good. There are some that a lot of us totally see as ridiculous. Yes, there's a reason and a place for regulation. The National Electric Code, these are for safety. We've got plumbing codes for safety, both the carbon monoxide gas that could be emitted and the sewer systems, natural gas and propane for safety, structural codes, maximum heights in Nisswa area, and I would say deem that only to what our fire protection equipment can deem safe to protect in case of a fire, not limiting how high somebody can go. If our fire equipment can go to an X number of feet, fine. Don't restrict a person, don't restrict us. And you all know that myself, a little guy, can't fight City Hall. I don't have the funds, and the ACLU is not going to come to my help because I'm a conservative, pro-American constitutionalist. You're just restricting us in so many ways. It's getting to the point, it's ridiculous. We're paying taxes on the property. As long as we're not infringing on our neighbors' rights, and that we do due to water runoff. And if you can name another one besides that, I'd like to know what it is. Where we're infringing upon our neighbors' rights. I don't believe that you have the right to tell us what color we can have our building. Most of us are going to use common sense on what we go out there, and we're not going to have a fluorescent orange, a fluorescent green house. We're going to use common sense. In fact, I went to the neighbor and I told him what color I was planning on putting on it. He thought it was great. We're going with a real natural gray color to blend in with the surroundings areas. But to tell us what part of our home, our structure, for what we want to store stuff inside, to keep it away so we don't have to call the police department because something's been stolen. It's just getting ridiculous. As I said, I'm a little blunt at times. I work with Brittany. She's very good. I have no complaints. She's doing her job on mine. But I think let's cut back and get rid of some of these regulations that you already have on the books and quit restricting us. Thank you.
Okay, do I have any more public comments? Hearing none, I'll close public comments. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on the proposed amendment? Don?
No, I'm too close to the issue, and I'm going to ask that I be entered as not voting on this issue because I can't make an independent rational decision on it. So it's up to the rest of you to decide what you want to do.
Linda?
Well, I think we agreed at the last meeting. I thought we agreed that we were looking at the storage area shall not exceed 100% of the ground floor footprint. And that's something that I'm in favor of.
I think, Linda, I was maybe the one exception. I thought it should be 150%, just because I thought that regardless of the house size, people, that allows for like a 4-car garage or something like that. And people that have a small house, a big house, have up here often have 2 boats, 2 cars, and maybe some snowmobiles and ATVs. And I thought 150% would accommodate a 4-car garage, 1.5 deep. And, so I was.
And the 100% wouldn't accommodate?
Not the size I thought would be reasonable, no. I mean, you can come up with different scenarios, how big the house is, but when I did my numbers, I thought 150% was, that doesn't mean someone couldn't build 100% or 125 or 75, but I was in favor of 150% limit.
To get back to the last month's meeting and the discussion, Linda was correct. We were talking 100% and versus the 150. And you mentioned that it's the ground footprint, but I think that Mark had brought up too that we should consider whether this is a 2-story house, because you might have a 2,000 square foot house on the ground, but you got 4,000 square feet of living space, and because of that, you probably need a little bit larger space. So I think using 100% on the total habitable space that's in the house would make more sense than the ground footprint of it. Okay. That would give a lot more flexibility. To get back to some of the other things here, in your comments that you'd mentioned that, talking about all the ordinances and restricting people to do all kinds of things. And that's true. And I'm on your side of that as well. I think there were some misunderstandings maybe of some of the discussion from last month about this. I don't think anybody here was in favor of 400 square feet, for instance. So that was 400 square feet is about the average size double garage in a regular house, a Rambler today, but that's not nearly enough garage space. And that's what I've got. And I really hate it. I'd love to have double or triple that. Whether or not I need 4,000 square feet, though, that's a whole different ballgame. And we're not talking about, obviously, about restricting colors or type of materials. We're not talking about that here. We're only talking about square footage. So it's, that has nothing to do with the shells ordinance. So, but I think I would continue to be in favor of 100% of the total space that's living space of the dwelling. In most cases, that would still give you 2,000 to 4,000 square feet of garage and storage space. That's a lot of space. So,
But you're making the assumption that someone wants to build a two-story.
No,
Under the scenario, they just want to do let's just say they don't have good knees like me and they want to do a Rambler, single floor. But yet they want to have, 2 car slots, a boat slot, ATVs, motorcycles, in a shop area.
but if they do that, they'll probably build a larger Rambler, so you don't have the stairs. If you need 4,000 feet of living space, but you don't want a second floor, you're going to build a 4,000 square foot Rambler. So what's the difference?
I guess I'm the case. I'm gonna build that 1,500 square foot house for Rambler for me. And that 100% I thought would be too small. No, that's just me.
Well,
That's my scenario.
I'm not totally against 150 or 200 or 100 or whatever, but it's just, I think it just should be reasonable. Because we do have instances in the city where just last year we dealt with one where somebody built, it's got a residence, quote unquote, and around here. And they've got a building that's got 10,000 square feet in it, and there's 1,200 square feet of living space, while the rest is a business, it's a landscaping business. And we're talking about residential properties here. We're not talking about business properties or commercial properties. So if you want to have electrical business or landscaping business or whatever you want, as long as you're doing that in space that's been planned for it in the city that goes along with our comprehensive development plan, you can have any size that you want. So,
May I speak? I have a question in regard to this.
You can speak.
Okay, in my case, I came here and asked for a permit to build a storage building. I was told that the first building on site needs to have living quarters, which is not a big problem. The building is 26 by 60. I am hoping to build a home on that same site. Now, how is this going to enter in to, am I going to be required to build a home X number of square feet, a minimum that is predicated on what I already have there?
These are attached storage spaces, not separate. So only if you were building on, but also since it's already constructed, it's grandfathered in. So you wouldn't be required to adjust. Your permit still stands, is what I'm saying.
we're talking about attached garages here. We're not talking about freestanding buildings.
Okay, the home that I hope to build will be separate of this building. So I will not, or anybody else will not be asked to build it X number of square feet because of what's already there on the property side. Is that correct?
But you'll have to.
Is that the way?
That's correct in relation to this ordinance. It would still need to meet other ordinances that are already in place.
Oh,
such as
yes,
the
setbacks.
new
I
building.
understand that.
Well, the new building has to be bigger than the existing building on the property. But other than that, yes, you wouldn't be tied down to any of these requirements, no.
Okay, did I understand? You say it would have to be bigger than the 26 by 60?
Yes, that's our ordinance now, though. Any accessory structures on the property have to be larger than or have to be smaller than the dwelling, sorry.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to be the same as Don because I'm going to abstain from voting because I am directly related to this, but I would like to make a comment just so we can clear the air. So I think whenever people have something different, whenever people have something changed, that just happens. And I get where you're coming from because I also am a business owner. We're doing the same type of thing right now where we're doing a storage building and people are going crazy. And I am in your vein where I think a property owner should have property rights. I agree. I think part of my issue and some of the other neighbors, they were frustrated that another neighbor can't build a single stall garage on his property because it's not a part of the ordinance. But at the same time, they can put up a 10,000 square foot building and that's okay. And I just think that if we're gonna have a working ordinance, there should be some cohesion there. Just so it's fair for everybody. I agree that you should be able to build what you want, and if it's a part of the code, it was approved, and that's how it works. But I think if you're in a residential area, there should be, I mean, that's why you have zoning ordinances, so you don't have something like a pink house or something ridiculous. That's part of the reason why people have it. And I think another part of the reason was they see that you're a business owner and they think that you're going to run a business. I mean, that's some of the comments that I got. Oh, he's going to run a business out of there. And I said, well, that seems odd. And I always ask people, I'm like, well, did you talk to him? And I think part of that issue is we're not talking to each other as much. I think there would be a lot less friction if we would try to be neighborly more often. And that's part of us. I mean, a lot of the neighbors probably didn't come and approach you. I know you'd spoken to some other ones, and I think that would do a lot of good just by talking to each other. So in essence, I agree with you, but I also think there should be some standards. And in the end, what we're doing as a commission here is we're not doing it on a whim. We're interpreting what the ordinances are, and then we're going off of them. And if we need an adjustment, then we'll talk about that. And that was part of this adjustment. If you have concerns or if you have things that you think that should be included, great. I think you should express those. And that's what the open forum is for. And that's why we do this as a public meeting so everybody can hear it and everybody can see it. That's how it should be. So I guess that's the only comments that I have right now.
And we're an advisory body to the council. So, I mean, we don't make the ordinances. So all we do is recommend it, what our opinion is of this, and then it's up to the council to pass it, reject it, or change it. So there's nothing that's going to turn into law by what happens here tonight. So
Are we ready for motion?
I'll entertain one.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the Schaus ordinance as written, the version that's 150% of the ground floor area.
of the ground floor.
Of the ground,
The footprint.
the footprint area, ground floor footprint area. That's pertaining to the living area, the ground floor footprint, living area.
Right. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair and Secretary, make sure you indicate that I am not voting.
Correct. And
Me as well.
Yep.
Linda?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, third item, ordinance amendment application 019-20 to modify grading and roads construction in shoreline area of city code, owner applicant City of Nisswa. Brittany.
with this one, we had a resident come forward with inquiring more than anything about why our ordinance was so restrictive when the DNR allows much more than we do. And after digging into it, I tend to agree. 9 inches for riprap is not real sturdy to stack and actually maintain the side of the shore. Also, the verbiage in there also included or 50 pounds. I personally don't like ordinances that I can't enforce. I'm not going to go out there with a scale and weigh the boulders. So I think we should just strike that altogether. I did include 18 inches in diameter. The DNR allows up to 30, so we can go up if we'd like. I just included that because it was double and I thought 18 inches was at least better than 9, but I'm definitely open to feedback from all of you.
Do we need a motion to discuss this?
Well, is there would anybody like to make a public comment? Please come to the podium and state your name.
Good evening. My name's Adam. I own a local landscaping company called All Solutions. Sorry.
What's the name of the company again?
So my business is All Solutions Property Services, and I recently approached Brittany about a month or so ago. I have a customer on Nisswa Lake. They're losing some shoreline due to ice erosion and some of the boats causing big waves and whatnot. Both their neighbors were grandfathered in with the larger rock previously in years past. And like their shoreline, you can literally see the bowing effect from the ice and the boats. So like Brittany kind of stated, 9 inches is roughly like the span plus 1 inch. So to be able to, and the shoreline is also like at an angle about 45. So to be able to stack small rocks like that, you're basically doing more harm than anything. So depending on the shoreline, like I've done probably about 50 or so of these, either with myself or other contractors over the years. The larger rocks in certain situations are better because they do make the shoreline more stable. Otherwise, you're just going to kind of be fighting the battle of them continuing to go back into the lake and not really doing they're kind of doing more harm than good that way. So that's kind of why I brought it to Brittany's attention to hopefully get that changed.
Adam, I live on Gull Lake myself, and some new homes that have done shoreline landscaping that are outside of Nisswa. Of late, I've seen rocks that I doubt would fit into an 18-inch sphere.
Yeah.
You're king for the day here, for the moment. What's the number that you picked? Did you recommend 18 to Brittany, or what's your number?
It's a nice size for certain situations, but like even last week I was working with another contractor, and it was not a very big shoreline, but it was a very fast 45, and that's where the bigger rocks are definitely going to be needed. I understand that people don't want to look at like a huge castle style rock shoreline. For instance, these customers don't want that. They just want something feasible. But I think 18 inches might be a little, in certain situations, it might not be enough. It might be one of those deals where depending on the shoreline, it might be better to use that larger rock size.
So what, if not 18, what do you recommend?
Honestly, especially working on that project last week, since the DNR does regulate up to 30 inches, I would just kind of go with that. And cap it at that for sure. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, I don't understand why we'd have 9 or 18 or 22 or anything else. If the DNR is going up to 30, why not just adopt the DNR ordinance and stick with it?
Yeah.
The
sure.
landscapers,
Yeah.
the people that are building these things they're not going to take just a whole bunch of 30-inch rocks and put in there. They're going to have
Do it work.
smaller ones between them. They're going to fill the voids. And, so we got professionals building this stuff. So
Yeah.
I think we should just use the DNR 30.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect.
Motion?
I have to change that.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that that ordinance amendment application number 019-20 to modify the grading and road construction shoreland area of city code to a well-graded mixture of rock sizes not to exceed 30 inches in diameter shall be used, and to match the DNR's ordinance or what they require. So, and that's according to the findings of fact that the planning department has
Verified.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I,
All those opposed? Motion carries. Fourth item is the CUP application 017-20 to construct and operate a common interest residential community. The subject property is PIN number 281-50598, owner applicant ETOC. See, Mark is here.
So I wanted to catch you all up on this just because there's been some changes. I wanted to be very clear that the change from a PUD to a PDD, which is a planned development district, that was on a miscommunication between the city attorney and myself. That was not on Grandview. So what we are intending to do is use the planned development district ordinance. It's been in our ordinance for quite some time. However, it's never been used. So this is kind of new terrain for us. However, we're using good legal counsel and we're following the ordinance, and we should be able to get this put into place. The thing that really changes as far as what our normal process would be is we put an overlay district over the 2 parcels, not including Central Pines there. It would just be the remaining 2 parcels that would essentially a PDD is a blank sheet of paper. The developer can come to us and really request to do anything. They're not bound by our ordinances. However, with that, it does have to go through approval of us and city council, of course. The reason that this was brought about as opposed to just doing a PUD with a CUP as well is because of, it's considered a mixed use, because in the CW zoning, we don't allow garages, we don't allow habitation, things like that. Whereas in the UR district, we wouldn't allow the rentals through Grandview and the like. So this is kind of, I'll call it a mixed use district, but it's labeled a planned development district. So we're not searching any official motions tonight because we'll have to do the rezone next month. However, we can do the rezone, the CUP, and the preliminary plat at the same meeting, pending the rezone first.
Next month.
Correct, yeah.
So
But I
this
wanted
is-
to be clear.
We're just having a discussion tonight.
We're just having a discussion.
Mark, do you want to kind of shed some light?
Sure. I mean, the development hasn't, I mean, the development isn't changed. It's from the beginning, we've talked about this almost a year now, and we put it on the shelf for a while. It's a resort residential development. So what it is it's a place where people can live there, or they can choose to rent there. And they can choose to, there's demand, there's a big demand out there for people who want to live at Grandview. There's also, and it's the beginning of something that I think we'll see elsewhere in the Brainerd Lakes area, which is, someday the kind of the Florida or Arizona or Texas model of, you have a golf course or some amenity and you have some houses around it, and that's where people choose to live. The only thing different here is we also would like to, because what we do is we rent things, so we also would like to have opportunity to have people put this in a rental program. We're put together some restrictions on the rental so that it's not a wide open, we're not going to have, 30 people in a unit, we're not going to have 7 cars, and, it's going to be a respectful neighborhood. The conditions that we put inside of the association documents, and so that, or I'm sorry, inside, and also inside the rental management agreements, so that we can control this, so that it's not the wild, wild west. Again, we want garages so people can park inside, so they can live there. We're not going to build 9-bedroom units out here, and we are going to restrict it to 8 adults as an occupancy situation. So, or actually, it's 8 people over the age of 4, not 8 adults. It's 8 people over the age of 4. That's our cutoff for some of our guests, because again, we have enough large units. And then again, the idea this is something where people can live there for a month, or they can live there for 2 months, or they can live there all year, or they can live there for the summer, or they can use it the way that they use their other places that we have, which are a week at 3 weeks in 3 weeks in the summer, or whatever, however they want to use it. And right now, with the preliminary marketing we've done and the people who come to look at the product and the project rather in concept, it's about 60-40. It's about 60% of the first group is going to be people who rent it out, either all the time, extensively, and 40% of people are going to move in and live there. Obviously, we have to full disclosure, full documentation that they're moving into a non-strictly residential neighborhood. We think that with the advent of, I'm the one who dreamt up many years ago the idea of adding the no garage ordinance to the no garage provision in commercial, because we don't want people moving into property that's intended for lakeshore. The intent was lakeshore property that was being converted from a use that benefited the greater community in many ways, which is a resort, to a private residences. The economic turnover is much lower, and the benefit that accrues in that kind of development accrues to the landowner as opposed to the greater community. So that's why we put that in there. That's why I advocated years ago to have that garage put in there. So this is a different animal. This is 1,000. The closest house is over 1,000 feet from the lake. This is on a golf course. It's a golf course community, and it's a resort golf course community. So that's what we said we were going to build in the beginning, and that's still what we're doing. We came in the first time with 60 houses. We went back and took another look at that and said, larger lots, a little bit larger houses, fewer of them. That's where it came down to 27. We think it's 27 fits in the neighborhood really well. And that's all there's ever going to be here. There's no phase 2 or phase 3 or phase 4 for this particular piece of ground. It's one phase and one phase only. And really, when we came all along, we've been coming in here talking about conditional uses, and I totally understand. And we thought and Brittany thought that's the advice that she had gotten from the city attorney, saying we could handle this with the conditional use, because I had advocated for a rezoning at one point in time, or even a new zoning ordinance at one point in time. And so it was just a miscommunication. We're here to ask you that next month we'll be back to present this, but we're not changing our intent. We're not changing our design. We're not changing the purpose from what we were here originally.
Mark, I just have a question on the rental aspect of it. Rental through Grandview, or are all the places going to be sold and individual people will rent out the property?
Well, our intention is to have them rented through us. And as we like to say in the business, if you're not renting through us, you are dead to me. So what happens is, if someone wants to rent it out if they're going to be gone for a year and they're going to rent it out for a year, they can rent it out. Yeah. But on the there's more 1 week rentals. The only way that those renters would have access to our facilities is if the rental came through us. Okay. So they don't have to rent it through us, but there's a benefit to them to do that, and they don't have to rent it at all. They can choose not to rent it.
Okay.
Mark and Brittany, we just earlier talked about the Crow Wing County thing. Which prevails here? The Crow Wing County ordinance, if we adopt it, or what you want to do? Which is?
It's kind of apples and bananas. The Crow Wing County ordinance would be strictly through UR or residential zoning, not necessarily UR zoning. So I don't believe that they would take a commercial waterfront zoning. I don't know that for a fact, but I think that the best option for the property owners is to rent through Grandview. So that's my assumption, is that they would do that. However, I think they would be allowed to do either one. I don't have the particulars on that, I guess. I'm sorry.
Are you going to present that to Crow Wing or to find out?
If you guys want me to, we can. But if we go that route, then we would change from a PDD, do a Mets and Bounds rezone,
Okay.
and then just simply do a plan development. Which is also an option.
Before we go any further, did I have anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment? No? Okay. Just wanted to give you the option.
I assume that in your sales documents with these people, your bylaws and your covenants, your association documents, I was quite fascinated with them. I read them all. And it gets pretty dry reading, but there's some parts in there that I really like that we could use in our own development. But that's beside the point. At some point, you can legislate to your people, to your buyers, I assume, where they can rent and where they cannot rent.
Yeah, actually, in Minnesota, I believe there's a statute in Minnesota that deals with that you can't force, you can't force inside a PUD, you can't force a single rental agent because of the abuses that have taken place in the past. So they can on their own rent it if they so choose, but we make it so attractive to do it through us. And frankly, so the idea that we don't know them, They can't play golf, they can't have access to anything, they can't use our facilities, as opposed to they can if they rent through us. Because this is the way we've structured all of our rental agreements with everybody, with
And that's
everything.
pretty much, those details of the rental, and what they're doing, pretty much locks it.
Right, it does. It's kind of a golden handcuff. So,
Sound like Mr. Wonderful.
What is Grandview's, what do they want? If you had a choice, what would you prefer?
well, we would, this, now that we understand it, this PDD makes sense, because because at the end of the day, we're looking for a nice, neat little controllable environment, as opposed to a meets and bounds where you can still put some covenants over, an overlay of covenants over it, but it doesn't necessarily have to have an association. This will have an association. As much as sometimes associations can be a pain for the manager and the management company, it also has a tendency to keep order. That's what we're looking for, is long-term, is order. That in fact, we can write these restrictions in there about, the kind of the number of rental units, 3 cars maximum, only 8 people over the age of 4 years old to be in their residence, unless they are guests of the residence, they can't be renters, things like that. Overall, I've been in the rental business for 42 years. I understand, the things that we can do to keep this as with a higher likelihood of success of it being calm and peaceful, and coexist a neighbor with a neighbor, a neighbor that rents and a neighbor that doesn't rent. Mm-hmm. There's a secret to that sauce. And I think that's what I'm looking for. If I can put that and as opposed to a meets and bounds, it makes it more difficult to do that. I prefer to have an association and a planned development district. Otherwise, we could go the other route. And the other thing we don't know on the other route is there's nothing that says that if we change the zoning to residential, there's nothing that says that 4 years from now, you're going to find out that the Crow Wing County ordinance is actually too liberal, which I think it is, but that's beside the point. I have a vested interest. And the city could change it and say, you know what, we're not going to allow these short-term rentals anymore. And then we've changed our zoning, and these people we've sold them on a bill of goods, so to speak, that says you can't, you can no longer rent. And they come to us and say, oh, what happened to my rental? I want to work another 5 years and before I move in here. So if that makes sense.
Well, I prefer going the method that we're using now, that you're adding down, because I think the structure is good for everybody. Whether it's the city or you or your buyers.
I'll also get an answer on if Crow Wing County will give short-term rental licenses in commercial waterfront. I'll come with that answer next month as well.
That's probably more pertinent to Mark than it is to us.
I'll bring you involved.
We'll call Bill or somebody. Okay.
Mark, I've got a couple questions on design, and I think I just want to, it's more like clarifications, because I think the answers will be the same as when it was a 60 unit or bigger unit. Your traffic flow on the roads, they're bi-directional roads, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it's a 20-foot wide asphalt privately owned road?
Yes, I believe, whatever the standard is, I believe that is 20 feet.
Okay.
It's
And what happens, since it's kind of managed the roads and operated by Grandview, private road, what happens in their scenario when some snowbirds come up and let's just say they're my age or older, and they invite not even for an overnight, but they invite their kids, their 4 kids and their 8 grandkids up, and there's 9 cars. With this particular design, how do you accommodate the 9 cars?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We've been asked that a couple times. We think that by the next time, when you see this, the one change we'll have is a small remote parking site.
Remote being outside of this development or in it?
In the development, on what is common area. We have enough impervious coverage and I forgot about that. We haven't changed this because we kind of got in flux with what the zoning was actually going to be. So we had contemplated 5 or 6 additional spots.
Great.
And the overnight, the 3 cars the 3-car rule is overnight. There
Right.
will be 3 cars there. So in these driveways, they could probably get 5 or 6 cars there, but there's no street parking and we will have this remote lot.
Okay, thank you. And like before, underneath these private roads, there's utilities,
City sewer,
city sewer.
yes.
Okay, and maybe this is like an engineering question to our city engineer, but in the rare case, there's a problem with the sewer, and we tear up the roads and we repair the sewer, who's responsible to repair recompact and re-asphalt the roads for where we needed to do repair? Is that the city's nickel, or is that Grandview's?
Well, I don't know about specific. Typically, it would be the cities. I mean, if they're going to be maintaining the sanitary sewer,
Right.
if they make repairs to it, they are going to be, making those road repairs.
Personally, I think the greenage in this new plan is awesome. My only thing is, if you look at the main campus, you do have some off-road trails for golf carts and people and other things. Even though you've got a ton of green space here, you're not putting in any private trails, right?
Actually, we are looking at, on the north side of the, along the north edge of the 4th, 5th, 6th fairway, going kind of over toward the sewer plant, and then down the west side, there's a walking trail. It's not shown on that one yet because it's on the newest, on another plat we sketched out. So there's probably, I want to say, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile of wooded walking wood chip trail. That's we have to be careful because of the golf course where the golf balls happen to go. Because we know if we don't do it, people are going to walk on the paths. We had that discussion at a marketing meeting with we had a focus group with a bunch of folks. So there will be a small amount of path. I'm going to say half a mile. But this is contemplating making provision for the bike trail, or the Gull Lake Trail coming across the front of it. That we hope is that's actually going to provide a much safer and a better location for that, and more interesting. The other part of that is golf carts will be able to access if the owner is staying in his house, he'll have a golf cart. They'll be able to use the internal golf cart path system to return to the clubhouse. They don't have to go back out to the road or onto the trail. They'll have the right to use the internal trail system. So, but no, other than that, it's a very minor amount of, it's half a mile of walking trail is about all we're looking at.
Okay. As far as some of their trails or roadway being a feeder, Brittany, to the Gull Lake Trail in this little section, do you know if the status of the most recent legacy grant application, is that feedback came back to the city?
Not yet. My understanding is we're still waiting.
Well,
It should be any day now, I believe. I'm sorry, what was that, Mark?
that was supposed to be in August, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I just talked to Amber, our new parks director, today, and she said she's expecting to hear soon.
Okay.
COVID.
Will that be put on a company website or announced in any way?
I'm sure it'll be on the parks website. I don't know how else they'll be
Okay.
distributing that information.
I'm
sorry.
sure this new development will be able to know.
Yes, yep.
Okay, thank you, Brittany. That's all I have. Oh, well, one other design thing. On your pumping stations between both houses, you're having a submersible pump in the yard, and then there's buried potable water going to the house, and each house is going to have their own pressure tank, and their own water treatment. There's not really going to be
There's not a central water system.
okay.
There's going to be a well for
Other
every.
than the well, each house stands on its own.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, no, every house has its own well.
Okay, I thought it's one per
I
two.
thought it was every.
Yeah, it has to be
well
one.
per two.
It's one per two. It's
Yep.
one well for 2 houses.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one.
But
Just
just curious.
they're responsible for their own water treatment inside their house.
Right.
Softeners, et cetera.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mark, did you have?
Well, I'm just going to ask the current cart path that goes from Lake 3 to Lake 4 between lots 8 and 9.
Yes.
Is there going to be I mean, It's not shown like, because you're showing a proposed cart path between lots 25 and 26. I'll say just for people to get access to the cart.
Again, that we had that conversation with the person who wants to buy 8. And actually, yes, that will be memorialized with a easement to cover that golf cart trail. We put it on the lot line for a reason. We just, for whatever reason, I've looked at it 100 times. I've never said, oh, I need to put an easement over that. So there will be a dedicated easement for that.
So it is going to stay, thank you. But just, it'll be something that'll be in the plat, you know, be just another I to dot there. Okay, that's the only thing I had. Thanks.
So Brittany, because this is a CUP application and preliminary plat, we're not voting on anything. Right? So that's going to be a change, okay. All right. Any other comments?
Close the public hearings.
Don made a motion to close the public hearings. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Motion carries.
I'll move that we move items D and E on the agenda tonight, table them to the December meeting.
Second on the table.
I'll second.
Second by Linda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, new business meeting date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
New business meeting dates approval for 2021. Yep.
So these are the proposed 2021 deadline and/or meeting dates. I did cross-reference them against the election schedules next year, and there's no conflicts. So unless anyone has any issues or concerns or comments, we should be
This year's will probably still be going on.
right. So we will need a motion to accept if you guys like how it's presented there. I did make one little change. We used to have our deadline, our deemed/complete incomplete date about a week before the newspaper notification. I did cinch that in because I felt that we didn't need a week. Typically, if I can deem it complete, we should be able to move forward with it that day. My hope was then that we didn't have so much time in between the deadlines and the meetings, just because sometimes they get to be, 5-6 weeks out. So that was my hope.
We have all the confidence in the world in what you can get done.
That's a lot of pressure, but I appreciate it.
I move that we adopt the planning commission meeting dates for 2021 as presented by the planning department.
I'll second that.
Second by Linda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. This is non-planning zoning administrators report, permits approved and violations.
So we did have another really great month on building permits, land use permits. We're seeing quite a bit of septic installs and quite a bit of new building developments, so that's going really well. The Pine Trail Holdings development on the other side of County Road 18, they're selling pretty quick, so we have quite a bit of development happening, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
We did have one violation in the last month, however, that was rectified within a few days, so that's all good. We have, at this time, I'm actually very excited to say we have no outstanding violations. So. Did anyone have any questions or concerns on any of that? All right.
All right. Any additional questions or comments?
Explain the $10,000 septic fee on the one building department.
If you connect to city sewer, it's a $10,000
Okay.
connection fee per
That's what I
ERC.
thought.
Yeah, which it is up from last year, which was 8,000. So that's probably
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Maggie.